This is a very familiar story. I bet if you've not, especially in this country, if you've not lived in a rock in the ground or a hole in the ground under a rock, you would have heard the story of Jesus' birth. Typically, the way we hear this story is all of the Gospels combined together. Well, two of the Gospels combined together because two of them don't have a birth story in them. But Matthew and Luke are usually combined together, and we hear of Mary becoming pregnant with a baby out of nowhere and having to explain that to her family. Try that one. It's not fun, I'm sure. No, honestly, Mom, Dad, an angel appeared to me. It wasn't me. I had nothing to do with it. I'm pregnant. I can't help that. It didn't go over well, needless to say. But in the story, she becomes pregnant. She then has to explain to her family, and Joseph doesn't believe her for obvious reasons. And yet in a dream, he's told that it's true, the child is God's child, and that God would like him to be the father and to take care of the baby. So he wakes up and takes Mary in as his wife and accepts the baby as his own. And then a census happens, and they have to travel from Nazareth to Bethlehem to take part in the census, which was all about taxes. Just as we don't like paying taxes in our day, they didn't like paying taxes in theirs. And so they have to go and register so that they can be accounted for and pay taxes. But along the way, obviously, Mary is pregnant, and when they arrive in Bethlehem, she is about ready to deliver, and they're trying to find a place to give birth to the baby. They look at all the inns, but there's no room in the inns, and the only place that they can find is a stable where they lay Jesus once he's born in a manger. Now the manger, I used to think that the manger was the stable itself. The manger is actually the trough that the animals are eating out of. So not the most sanitary place to be putting your newborn baby in a hay-filled trough, but that's where they lay Jesus. And at that point, a star is shining down, and shepherds hear a chorus of angels that tell them to go to Bethlehem and see the child, so they show up. And then before you know it, these three kings that have been following the star end up showing up there as well. We've all heard the story, right? We know the nativity story as a whole. What we don't realize is actually the wise men probably didn't show up for days, if not a month or more, after Jesus was born. It doesn't really say in Matthew, and in Luke there's no mention of the wise men at all. But the story is familiar. Sometime after Jesus' birth, the wise men, who knows how many, visit Jesus bearing with them gifts of gold, incense, and myrrh. And it would be frankincense. Now, I think we often think that there are three wise men because there were three gifts. But the Bible doesn't say that there were three wise men, just that wise men from the east came and visited him. But my question for us tonight is, what good are those gifts? Have you ever stopped to consider that question? What good are those gifts? I mean, gold, frankincense, myrrh? What good are those gifts that only royalty can afford? What can a peasant boy born in Bethlehem or his family do with such gifts? If they show up anywhere trying to buy stuff with gold as peasants, they'll probably get blamed for being thieves and arrested. I mean, after all, peasants don't have gold, right? So if you show up with gold, where did you get that? It must not be yours. What will frankincense? How many of you like incense or burn incense? Okay, rock on. All right, I love incense, and frankincense is among one of my favorite incense. So if you love incense, you'll know what frankincense smells like. You'll know what myrrh smells like. What is the point? What good is that going to do a poor baby born in a manger? What good are these gifts? I'm sure we can ask the same question about the potential gifts we bring. What good are they? What can they possibly do to help Jesus' cause? What can they possibly do to further Jesus' mission? What could we have that would make any difference for Christ in this world? We seem so very small in comparison to the sin and evil in this world, do we not? How many of you are aware of what's going on in the world right now? Watch the news or kind of pay any sort of attention even if it's on what's trending on Facebook or whatnot. We're inundated with what's going on in the world, and most of it is utterly depressing. Most of it, it's just like, what kind of world am I living in, and what can I possibly do to make it better? We always hear, the famous quote from Gandhi, be the change you wish to see in the world. That's all great. It rings nicely in my ears, but when I try to be the change, I just get kicked in the eye, thrown in the mud, and nothing changes. What good can I do? What can I possibly bring that is of any worth? I know as we approach Search this weekend, there are going to be people there with all sorts of things going on in their lives, all sorts of baggage. What good can we possibly do? Do you have that feeling, Sam, in some ways?
No.
Good. I do, if I'm honest. I often wonder what good I can do as a pastor in this church, or in the world as a whole. I can preach and preach and preach all day long. I can read my Bible, I can pray, but that's not going to make anybody else do anything to change. Sometimes it's not enough for me to change, let alone anybody else. Yes, Sam?
But like what we were talking about earlier, you can give them the idea, but only they can make the actual change.
Right. I can give ideas all day long. I can show the door, but only they can take.
You stole that from me.
That's right. I totally stole that from you. Thank you, Sam. If this were in writing right now, it would have like quotes around it, like a dash and Sam Borgstrom written next to it. We seem so small in comparison to the problems that the world faces. How could we possibly have anything that Christ could find useful? So, back to the wise men. Perhaps in 2017 we'll call them wise people, right? It doesn't say, well, it says men in the Bible, the men is everywhere in the Bible. Perhaps they're wise people. It doesn't say that there weren't women in the entourage, right? So it could be wise people there. What do you think the gift of gold represents? That's not a rhetorical question, you can answer. What do you think the gift of gold represents? Well, if I brought you gold tonight, what would it represent for you?
Money. Well.
Well, okay, well, that's a start. There we go. Well, okay, thank you, Sam. How about it represents a gift for a king? Kings are typically seen sitting on golden thrones around golden bars and coins filling up, like, I don't know how many of you have seen Mel Brooks' History of the World Part 1. If you haven't, see it because it's hilarious. But there's a scene where the Emperor, Caesar, gets brought a whole bunch of gold and jewels and gifts, and then he's like, jewel bath, and they're pouring all this stuff on top of them. And this is the image we have of kings, that they're kind of reveling in the wealth that they have. So gold represents a gift for a king. But it also represents something of worth, something of immense value, being given over to our Lord. Think about it. If you had a bar of gold, if I were to hand you a bar of gold tonight, what would you do with it? Would you run out and spend it and just get rid of it?
Yeah.
That's why I don't give you gold, right? Most of us would do something with it. Tuck it away, store it, invest it, do something so we didn't lose it because it's something of value. Most of us aren't going to just throw gold to the wind and just allow it to fly out there and do nothing with it. We want to build upon what we have and grow it, not lose it or squander it. So, gold represents something of immense value given to Christ the Lord. How about frankincense? What do you think the significance of frankincense is? Anybody? Gold was the easy one, by the way. Gold was the easy one. Anybody know what frankincense is typically used for?
No.
What's that?
I said no.
No? From my days in Wicca, Google it. From my days in Wicca, I can tell you that frankincense represents ritual purity and ritual purification. It is a gift for the high priest, who would use frankincense in the temple to purify the area and make it holy and sacred for whatever sacrifices were to be done. And it also represents humility for the one who gave it, recognized that Christ was pure, that Christ was the high priest. So the person who gave Christ this frankincense recognized that Christ was in an exalted, purified place, and this person wasn't, and they were handing over that gift to Christ, the high priest. It was an acknowledgement of his or her own sin, and their need to be purified by Christ, who is the high priest who can purify that sin. And now myrrh. Does anybody know what myrrh is used for? Yeah?
Also in the Bible, it was used to foreshow his death, because they used myrrh to anoint the bodies.
Right. Myrrh is an anointment for burial, rubbed on the bodies of the dead. And in Jewish custom, you would prepare the body, you would clean it, you would anoint it with oil, you would wrap it up, and then you would stick it into a tomb. And myrrh smells nice. It helps probably mask the decaying smell of a body dying. I mean, there are practical reasons for using it. But you wrap it up in this myrrh, which is a pretty potent smell, and then the body would decay and turn into bones, and then when it finally was rotted and you had all just bones there, they would come back a year or so later and pull out those bones and put them into an ossuary, which is a jar that holds the bones of the dead. And then you would put that in its final resting place. And this is the tomb that Jesus was laid in, was that type of a tomb where you laid the body in there and waited for it to decompose so you could collect the bones and put them in a jar. So this gift of myrrh was foreshadowing Jesus' death. It was a gift of compassion for the great sacrifice that this particular king and his family would one day make. So you see, these gifts are more than just gold and frankincense and myrrh. They are what's most valuable, what is humble, and what is filled with compassion. As I see it, we too can lay down such a valuable gift as these wise people did all those years ago. Only we need not bring gold, we need not bring frankincense, we need not bring myrrh or any such things. All we need to bring as our most valuable gift is ourselves. For our lives are what are most valuable to us. Which one of us would just throw our lives away? Now, there are some days where I feel like just throwing my life away. I get that. But typically, we value ourselves. Our lives are what are most valuable, and to give our lives to Christ shows humility and our desire to be filled with Christ's compassion in the world. I always say this, and I'll end it here. For me, Christianity is not about religion. It's not about sitting in the pews. It's not about the books. It's not about offering or keeping the lights on. It's not about hymns and Bibles and prayers. It's not about rules and regulations. It's about presence. Not present, but presence, like your presence here with us. It's about relationships, not religion. Jesus said that the two greatest commandments ever, the two greatest rules ever, were to love God with all of your being and to love your neighbor as yourself. And then he went on to show who your neighbor was, and that included even your enemies. That's the whole point of what Jesus taught. That we should love God and love our neighbor. And Jesus went on to even say that if you don't love your neighbor as yourself, you're not really loving God, because that's what God is love. And if you can't love your neighbor, how can you possibly love God? The greatest thing we can give to God is ourselves and that relationship that God desires to have with us. So tonight, as we partake in Holy Communion, I want you to reflect on that. Reflect on the most valuable gift you have to offer. Nothing says I love you more than being present in the lives of those who need it. Sam knows this, right, Sam? Miranda knows this. Katie knows it. We all do. Think about the times that someone you love and care about has been with you in your time of need. And how much that meant to you. Is there anything in this world that could replace that? Is there any price or value you could put on that? Tonight, as you partake in Holy Communion, bring that gift to Jesus, to Christ the Lord. Bring yourselves. Let your prayer be from this night on, Lord, what would you have me do? Who would you have me be present with? I promise you that kind of prayer will be answered. Amen. Gracious God, we thank you and praise you for teaching us that we are the most valuable gift to you. Lord, even if we don't value ourselves, and there are people who don't, you value us more than anything else. And the greatest thing we could ever give is ourselves. You said, Lord, that no greater love exists than this, that one would lay down their life for their friend. You've done that for us, but you have also called us to lay down our lives for those in need. Guide us, strengthen us as we seek to fulfill that call. In Jesus' name we pray.